For many, the fear that kept people stuck in their religion the longest is this. It's the community. It's the long relationships and the history that we have built with people in the organization. And you tell yourself, well, if I leave, I will have no one. Because these are the only relationships that I have ever known. And if you're worried about being lonely after you leave, or you wonder if you will find people who actually understand you, well, you're not alone. You know, these are really the most common fears for JWs who are just waking up. So in this video, we're going to talk about how to actually make real friends after leaving and why you're not as far behind as you think. But first, let's talk about why it's so challenging to make friends after leaving. When I was still in the organization, I do remember having very strong bonds with the friends, right, in the religion. You know, but what I didn't realize is that the organization didn't allow us to envision friendships outside the religion. In fact, we called anyone who wasn't a Jehovah's Witness, well, we labeled them as worldly people. And that label was very clear. It meant that we had to distance ourselves from people outside the organization, people that were not part of the community, part of the pack. We were taught to not be part of the world and therefore shun the world. And that actually caused social isolation for us. It isolated us from the rest of society. We were encouraged not to have intimate relationships with our coworkers or our friends at school because they were considered bad association. Bad association could spoil useful habits. They could pull you away from Jehovah. So right there, it already instilled fear, doubt, and distrust. And I don't know about you, but when I woke up from the religion, I actually carried all of these traits with me. Oh yeah, I remember because I woke up during the pandemic and not only did I have fear, I actually developed a phobia and fear of people, non-JWs and JWs. I actually couldn't trust anyone. And that was really the level of religious trauma that I was dealing with. And the best that I could do, every time I felt fear, doubt, or distrust, I socially isolated. Now, it's not the healthiest thing, but that's how my mind was programmed if I felt these things, because it felt safer for me. I wouldn't consider it the healthiest thing, but it was safer for my nervous system at the time. And there's actually two things that the organization taught us that's blocking us from creating real friendships. So stick around because I'm going to show you what those are later. But I also want to share and try to normalize something because making friends as an adult is challenging just in general because there is this adult loneliness that's happening and it's a real thing, even for people who didn't grow up in a cult. Because here's the thing, adult life doesn't give you three things that a friendship needs. One is proximity, repetition, and unplanned time together. And research shows that it takes 50 hours just to be casual friends, 90 hours to be real friends, and 200 plus hours to be close friends. So in order to develop and establish friendship, you actually have to create repeated and purposeful time with someone. And the reason why I'm pointing this model out to you is because mathematically it makes sense. It makes sense why our friendships at the hall felt very intense. It's because the organization gave us those three things automatically. It was set up that way. The organization gave us proximity. It gave us repetition. It gave us unplanned time together. Proximity, Kingdom Hall, meetings, service. We were always isolated together. Repetition. We had meetings 3 times a week, at least. And if you're pioneering, you're always with the congregation. Unplanned time together. Sometimes you would go to dinner after the Kingdom Hall. So making friendships at the Kingdom Hall was easy because it was already set up that way. And then what about the hours? If you were pioneering with the same partner for at least 3 months, you would have already reached 210 hours and would have already formed an intense, close relationship with them. So those bonds that we formed at the Kingdom Hall, they weren't necessarily fake, but they weren't natural either. So if leaving feels impossible, I believe it's because this is the foundation The system is designed to create that intensity because of isolation. And if you feel fear of leaving, that's only proof that the system that they've built is working on you. And so I'm going to share something that might hurt you a little bit, but I promise it's to your benefit. Because the intensity that you feel with your friends in the congregation or assemblies, you might never recreate that intensity when you leave the organization. And that's okay. And so one of the things that I had to ponder over, and this was challenging for me because I did miss and love my friends in the organization. But one of the things that I had to ask myself was like, well, if I was living authentically and living in my truth, would those people even be my friends? You know? So it's like, probably not, because they cannot accept me for me. So you can't be your authentic self and have those friends. And would you even be friends with them if you were living your truth? So when you start making friends outside of the organization, it will feel different. It will feel pure. And it will feel real because you can finally be your real self. You don't have to hide who you are. And they will accept you for you. And you deserve to have friendships that will accept you for you. You deserve to have friendship that is willing to give you that unconditional love. Because we have to remember that we were only associated and friends with them because of the JW label, or being a member of the community of the organization. It wasn't really based on real, authentic friendship. It was just based on a membership to a community. But here's what I've noticed about ex-JWs who have been successful at building friendships after leaving. They know how to redirect their skills that they got from the organization, and they've learned to use that to their advantage. I already have these skills because I've been developing them when I was in the organization, such as showing personal interest, listening skills, emotional intelligence, learning how to show up. You know, a lot of these skills we fostered when we were out in service or in the theocratic ministry school. But now I could take those skills and redirect them towards things that I'm actually interested in. And that was a turning point for me because my phobia in creating friendships started to fade. I started to realize that people out in the world, in the real world, aren't really dangerous people. They are just genuinely interested in wanting to get to know you and hang out with you. But here's what I discovered. You see, we can still have those skills and not make real friends. Why? Is because there are still two things that the organization programmed into our mind that's blocking us from creating real friendship. And what is that? It's being judgmental and it's having a motive. The first thing is judgment. Remember, in the organization, we were taught to shun the world. We were taught to fear them, to doubt them, to not trust them. And we can still carry that judgmental thinking when we're out in the world. Sometimes we assume the worst. So we have to learn to just be open-minded and to learn to see people for who they really are. And the second is motive. You know, we showed personal interest in people because we had an agenda. We wanted a Bible study. We wanted them to get baptized. We wanted them to stay in the organization. There was always a hidden agenda in our relationships. And if you start bringing that same energy and that same hidden agenda into new relationships or friendships that you're forming after you leave, you know, people can feel that. People can feel that you have a hidden agenda. Real friendship means showing genuine interest without wanting anything in return. So get rid of the judgment, get rid of the motive. Just be interested in people because you actually care about them. But what if you're planning to leave, but you still fear Armageddon? Or what if you left, but that fear didn't go away? In my next video, I'm breaking down exactly why that fear won't leave and how to finally break free from it so you can start living free. I'll see you there. So always remember, my friends, to own your story, own your power, and live your truth.